Hello and welcome to Revolutionary Mental Health. I'm your host, Debbie Nelson, and I'm really pleased to invite a dear friend of mine and someone I met long ago from being a part of the Alliance for Addiction and Mental Health Solutions, Jen Bruce, who is part of Humans Can Heal. And boy, she does it in a big way. So welcome, Jen. I love you. And Jen is so profoundly talented and so educated in so many areas that you'll see her a couple different times within our podcast, just because I feel her skill set is so high that so many people are looking for coaches like her. So welcome, Jen.
Thank you so much for having me here, Debbie. I appreciate it.
Well, when I met you, since I've known you, you just keep getting educated. I've never met someone who is so educated in whether it's functional medicine testing and the science of everything. And when we start talking, you'll see this brainiac knows the science of mental health and addiction like no one else. And that's what I look for, Jen. I want people that can find resources like you. The world is looking for people like you. They really are. So tell me a little bit, like what's your story? Because everyone likes to hear, like, how did you get into doing this field?
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. So I kind of stumbled upon it like a lot of us do. And out of the beginning of my story emerges from the need for my own recovery. So I come from a long line of alcoholics and mental health challenges on both sides of my family. I came from generations of military veterans, and I fell into serious addiction at age 14, and I stayed there until 30. My drug of choice was alcohol, and I was given a lot of multiple co-occurring disorder diagnosis. We'll just leave it at that. And then at 30, I chose sobriety because my life depended on it. And I was suffering so greatly, I really couldn't go on another day. And I got into recovery through the traditional 12-step model, and it saved my life. It was one of the most important things I've ever done. I still live my life through that framework. But as many people, if not everyone, after the pink cloud dies down and not having a hangover and remorse every day is normalized, I was left with my new baseline, which was I was still riddled with anxiety and depression, not anywhere near as bad when I was in active addiction, but it was still debilitating. I was chronically fatigued. I had become aware that I think I had been chronically ill most of my life, pain and skin rashes and immunity and just all kinds of things that made it very difficult to reach the huge dreams and goals I had in my life. And so I stumbled into the holistic path because of necessity. And things started to work. Functional medicine, nutrition, yoga brought me to India, brought me to the top people in the mental health nutrition field where I met you. And then leaving out a lot of the story, but then my daughter was born a few years into my sobriety, and most of my friends at the relatively young age in my early 30s of recovery had grown up in sober homes, 12-step, and they were in the rooms. And so I really wanted to go out on a mission to find more answers so that I could do my very best of preventing passing this along to my daughter. And, I've been on the educational research path and self-development ever since.
Wow. When you went through and you had all of these different, how many treatment centers did you go to before you were able to get sober? Because at 14 to 30, did you do treatment centers or AA, or were you just pretty much in active addiction during that time?
At 20 years old, part of my addiction story was I fell into some legal problems like many of us do. So I was forced into rehab. I was forced into AA. Of course, I had a horrible experience. Back then, the rehab centers were just short of still giving people frontal lobotomies. And so actually, that was the only tour of treatment that I had. And then I was a blackout late stage alcoholic from age 20 to 30. And at 30, I just decided I wanted to become sober after a psychedelic journey that was not in a therapeutic setting. I went to AA, and I've never had a drink or a drug since.
Wow.
Mhm.
When you went through these processes, I always did you get lots of diagnoses? Were you put on traditional meds? What did I always call it, I deem the phrase now when I talk to people as Um, are you rehab graduate? The reason I say that is I was a rehab graduate. So rehab graduate generally means you leave with pharmacology. I left with 5 psychiatric meds. And I remember at that time, that's when I started getting into like what you did, because I kept thinking, well, I didn't see people really succeed. And I knew that mental health drove a lot of my drinking or my problems that I had, but the mentality that somehow there was anything short of a psychiatric medication or nothing never occurred to me. I don't know why. Like I think it was just, you get bought onto the mentality that there's something fundamentally wrong with you, which we know obviously there's something wrong. We're drinking or doing whatever. But when you started getting into the holistic aspect of things, um, were you indeed did you use any psychiatric medicine that you had to taper off of, or?
Oh yeah.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I went into treatment at 20 trying to get off of one thing, or they were trying to get me off of one thing, and then I left on five things, just like you. I think I was on five different medications, slapped with a bunch of labels, which really at that point, because I also, this is the danger too, because I wasn't ready to get sober yet. And so then it really reinforced the belief that I was broken, and then that was fueled my excuse to continue to drink myself to death. And I think that the severe decline um, during my entire decade of my 20s was essentially lost to late stage alcoholism, but it was because of the alcohol in combination with the psychiatric meds that really was my demise, because the rest of my family was nowhere near as bad as me. They're very high functioning alcoholic, and I just broke. And I can look back now and see that it absolutely was the psych meds. And when I got into recovery at 30, I kind of had free IOP because my sponsor had run a sober living house for 31 years and worked in rehab. So she was basically like I was seeing a professional, and she actually required that I get off the psych meds within the first year, or otherwise she told me that there was no way she was going to be able to help me because the medication blocked the repair process physically, mentally, and spiritually. And she was 90 at the time and really ahead of her time, but it was by her guidance that I was, made aware that these medications had been causing my symptoms, blocking me from healing, and exacerbating my addiction. And so she was one of the most important teachers on my entire path.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I always preface it when we get into these podcasts is I'm always very cautious to let people know we're not advocating for anyone to abruptly stop a medication. It's extremely dangerous. Matter of fact, it's one of the number one things I think that causes psychosis and relapse, because you cannot stop these types of medications overnight and then you get further diagnosed. So the reason that we're about this is that we're educating people that if someone wants to attempt tapering and to do these sort of things to get themselves well, there are individuals like Jen and doctors and individuals that are helping individuals get healthy. Get
Yes.
healthy. And that's the only way you can do it. I said it's a supported taper, and that means emotionally, physically, and every way. So
Yes.
what things did you do? What did she teach you?
Well, first of all, she taught me take a year.
Yeah.
And she taught me that, my belief system is really important. Do I believe that I'm broken? Because in fact, these diagnoses, the alcohol and the drugs cause these symptoms, right? And now that I've gotten even deeper into my journey, I understand that my generational and personal trauma and a dysregulated nervous system, which is not a genetic brain disorder that can't be cured. She taught me a different way to look at it. She also taught me the first thing this woman taught me was that I needed to eat fat, fiber, and protein at every meal, and that I cannot, under any circumstances, skip breakfast because the physiology of my alcoholism is fueled by a condition called hypoglycemia, which is a sensitivity to blood sugar regulation. And that if my blood sugar is too low, that my brain goes offline, that my body releases adrenaline to release the glucose from the liver so that my blood sugar can come back up. And this feels like panic attacks and anxiety. So I would come to her very rarely with a drama or a problem that I feel like I couldn't handle. The first thing this woman would ask me in her wisdom would be, what did you eat for breakfast today, yesterday, and the day before? Every single time my answer would be nothing or coffee and a muffin. And she would tell me this. She would say, go eat fat, fiber, and protein, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Do not skip breakfast for 3 days and do not have coffee until after you've eaten. Call me back when your brain's back online, and then we can fix the problem. Every single time I didn't need to call her back because it was my lack of capacity due to low blood sugar and my brain being in my amygdala rather than my prefrontal cortex that was the issue. Once my brain was back online, because of that simple formula, I could handle whatever thing was going on in my life.
Wow.
That was the foundation.
So eating protein and making sure, like you said, fat, fiber, and protein at any meal. That's to be able to help a person balance themselves. So when you started down this path and started getting better and tapering yourself off, you got involved. You obviously, you said that you did psychedelics that totally changed your life. And you're a real believer and you're an activist in that arena. I appreciate everything that you brought to that arena, which is a lot because you're destigmatizing the use of that and that application for both mental health and addiction. We're not talking about somebody just going off and having fun with a bunch of friends. It's done in a therapeutic setting. And that's kind of what you specialize in, right? I mean, it's your passion of what you've created is pretty amazing because you help people with addiction, but you also are amazing at helping people actually taper off of medications to in preparation if they do want to do plant medicine ceremonies, correct?
Yes, that's right. I am an advocate for the safe, responsible, sacred, and therapeutic use of certain entheogenic or psychedelic plant medicines or molecules. Not all of them, and it's not the right thing for everybody, but I specialize in helping people that a lot of things haven't worked for very complex cases. I've worked with veterans, I've worked with chronic relapsers myself. Again, I brought myself to it first. I also wanted to back up to just briefly interject that I am not against medication. I am for everything that helps somebody, and sometimes they serve a purpose when also
Right.
used responsibly,
Yeah.
safely, informed. And that's the way I feel about everything that we might do or take across the board. So, yeah, so back to my story. 3 years sober, I had changed my diet, functional medicine. I'd uncovered a lot of things, yoga. I started understanding trauma, and I had a few things that happened, and I just could not seem to get past it. And so, as a last ditch effort before I went down the psychiatric path again, because I knew the dangers of it there, just the fatigue, the some things just would not lift, and I was a new mother, which that's a whole nother thing, becoming a new mother in recovery or, but I went to ibogaine and it changed my life so profoundly that I came home. I stopped my career. I went back to educate myself to work in the field that clearly needed some development in it. And it wasn't the journey or the psychedelic itself. It was what it taught me. And the biggest takeaway from ibogaine was it reset everything in my body and my brain and my spirit and my emotions, so much so that it was the very first time that I had actually had a visceral lived somatic experience of what it felt like to feel good and safe and balanced in my body, my physical body, in my entire life, which then gave me the realization that I was born in a freeze response because my mother was under stress when pregnant with me, which is very common in people's stories of mental health and addiction. We miss this even in holistic approaches. What was the prenatal environment like? That's between intergenerational and personal is the prenatal phase. And so what it did is it made me realize not only myself, but everybody's, especially recovering from addiction, but all mental health diagnosis, medication dependency, is that we're taught to look back at our very worst point and be like, well, I'm grateful because at least I don't feel like that anymore. I'm so much better. But most of us are still barely managing because we're missing some things. And what it taught me is that I and millions of other people have been conditioned to look back and keep our bar so low rather than getting curious about what is my full potential to heal. And then that brings us to the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton and epigenetics and the environment, which is where functional medicine comes in. But then there's the hardware, the body in functional medicine, but we must work with the software, the subconscious conditioning, our relationship to past events, renegotiating our traumas. And when the software and the hardware are working together, that's when we activate the human's genetic ingrained ability to heal on its own, which is why I call my business and my platform Humans Can Heal. We're designed to. And so I didn't know that that was possible until after I did ibogaine because I'd never experienced it before, right?
Wow.
So that's why I work in the plant medicine space now, is because I know that it can do the,
Jen, I think one of the things that I'm the most impressed when I see individuals like yourself, I'll include myself, any of us, there, there's this desire to learn whatever we need to learn. How do I need to heal myself? And how can I bring it back to other people who are still suffering? And it started on a basis, like you said, on our own personal journey, but then we became so committed to it, realizing how how much better people can get when they have the comprehensive tools that you have. Now, what happens though is that most people don't get that, or they don't realize that there's these kind of tools that would really be game changers for their mental health and addiction. In my view of it, like you went on this personal journey, which is so admirable. You know, the best thing we can do is to be the best we can be for ourselves, obviously, in our family. But when someone takes it on the next level of an education that they're like, I want to not only heal myself, but I want to change the paradigm as to how people are treated. And I want to do it so that, you know, you work with high end clients and you work with people that don't have money. You have both. So you're not an exclusive. I only work with celebrities, and yet you have the knowledge and the skill set that obviously you have very high end clients, but you are not exclusive to just only high end people. And your demographic that you serve, like you said, I work with veterans, I work with these. But when you start introducing this, I know that you're trained in functional medicine as well, like you know testing, you know all of these things. So when someone comes to you, it's it's a very comprehensive approach to mental health that most people have probably not been educated to just yet. They want it, but they don't know how to go about getting it. I think there are so few coaches I know that are trained to your level that can give people such a comprehensive long-term success. Like you have tremendous success helping people with sobriety, and you do it online.
yeah.
I mean, you have tremendous success helping people taper, and you have
Yeah.
tremendous success. So you're licensed. You actually, you had shared with me before that you're actually, you can administer psychedelics for individuals if it's someone that you think is a candidate, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been working in the space for over a decade now with the psychedelics, but I am one of the first people to be licensed in the state of Oregon to legally and safely provide psilocybin therapy. And I feel so honored to be here helping to develop the programs in Oregon. So that is something that I offer. And yeah, I mean, really, like I get such a variety of people, anywhere from housewives to celebrities and everywhere in between. And every single person's like basic needs are the same, but then everybody's constellation in relation to their life experience is different. So my job is to find the right combination, help my clients find the right combination for them, because we all can heal. It's just
Right.
about figuring out what we need to do. And that's where, like, you know, a lot of us play a detective role too. And I'm a huge believer that we don't need an innovation, or we don't need to discover anything. The thing that I see that happening is that we have everything that every single person needs. It's about weaving them together. It's the gaps in between. It's the dogmatic belief systems and the different, you know, modalities, and, you know, this kind of almost cult-like influencer kind of mentality these days, or, you know, and then as consumers of Western medicine and pharmaceuticals, we've been taught to look for the magic pill. And so a seasoned person on this journey, which is what I aim to help my clients become, as a seasoned traveler on their own healing journey, because this is a lifelong process that gets more and more and more amazing every day, week, month that goes by. But there's 100% success rate when we're educated, we understand ourselves, and we know the right tools that work for us. You know, like maybe psychedelics aren't for me, but everybody needs to activate the neuroplasticity in the brain and renegotiate their trauma somehow. We all need to build our body budget, meaning I need good nutrient status. I tell all my clients, your energy level needs to be at a B plus or better, or you can't do the software, the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual work. You know, we can't just focus on the body. So it's like combining all of these together in the right way for the right people, then you see like what you would call miracles happening, but they're actually very predictable when you understand what you're working with, right? We've just been disconnected from knowing ourselves, really.
I like that perspective. I honestly, I believe that that's so accurate. It's not innovation. It's actually at us just relearning what we already did have in a long time ago. It's just that we all kind of said that we know better. Everyone knows there's a better way. We all honestly thought that the pharmaceutical was the innovation. And for some people, it is. Like I said, it's not about an anti-medicine movement. It's about what's responsible. And I'm talking for myself. I didn't feel that treating my alcoholism with 5 psychiatric medicines was the responsible approach for me. It certainly didn't do anything to make me healthier. It didn't give me motivation. Matter of fact, if it wasn't for quickly starting to learn, well, for me, my insurance changed, and overnight I quit all 5 meds. So there you go. That's my story of how I started down this path. And it was when I went through that point, and I was taking 5 shots of caffeine every single day just so I could work. Before I went to work, along with an extra large coffee, because I'm not crying. I don't even know how I'm going to work. I didn't know at that time. So now being educated, that spurred a deep need in myself to say, I can't live the rest of my life this way. What am I going to do to get better? And I'm not noticing these people necessarily feeling better. They may be sober, but they were all vaping and drinking rock stars and eating enormous amounts of candy. And I was eating enormous amounts of candy, and I was miserable, and I was gaining weight, and, all of the things that go along with it. And when I started to educate myself there was no going back, because it's like when you start learning it, it resonates with your soul, right? I mean, and then you're on fire, where you're like, okay, I think I'm finally getting better. I'm pulling out of this. And then starting to look at what are my triggers? Because we talk, in addiction, they're always talking about triggers. What are your triggers? Okay. Well, not sleeping for 4 days is a big heck of a trigger for people, if you can't sleep. That's a big trigger. There's anxiety, there's relationship triggers. But realizing my body was no shape or form equipped to deal with any of that, because I didn't have that bank, like you said. I didn't have it. My body can't rebound on 5 shots of caffeine.
No.
It just can't. So when someone comes to you, it doesn't matter whether it's, I want help to see whether I can taper off of some of these meds. I'm on a lot of meds. I think there's a lot of people that maybe are like what I think. When I was in early sobriety, I knew that I was at risk to not stay. And I knew that the tools that were presented at that time weren't comprehensive enough for me to stay. And so that's when I started learning about the nutrition and all these other things that were imperative. When someone comes to you, what does it look like? I know that when I've looked at your stuff, I'm blown away at how incredibly organized your coaching platform is and what you do for people. I'd love for you to share, like, if someone says, I'm on meds, I don't know whether I want to stay on meds, can I taper? I want to stay sober. A lot of times it's just they're struggling with sobriety. What does it look like with you?
Yeah. So the first step is for us to just have a call and see if it feels like a good fit. My whole thing about healing is it doesn't have to be hard. I am invitationally led, like, because the real secret sauce is that you have to want it. Because if you want it, you're going to do what you need to do to get it, right? So this needs to feel good. It needs to be a good fit. What are your goals? You know, what have what are you willing to do? And a full functional health history, but it's trauma informed, addiction informed, spiritually informed, because we're looking at the entire life experience. I want to hear what's worked for you, what hasn't, because we're taking this dough and we're starting to knead it, so it's going to turn into something really beautiful and delicious, right? And then start with the lowest hanging fruit. You can't do everything overnight. I am not into these strict protocols. I'm also an herbalist. I'm about balance and about sustainability. And, you know, we'll talk about all the different areas that you're going to need support in. What are the different options in there? You know, I don't say you need to come out to Oregon and see me unless you feel like that's the best choice. Here's 5 choices if you're interested in medicine. If you're not interested in medicine, that's okay. We can do this instead. You know, we need to get some lab works done, or if you've had labs, we need to look at those. Because, like for me, for instance, when I went through all of that, one of the reasons that ibogaine helped me, it wasn't because it's good for addiction. I mean, the reason it's good for addiction is it also knows the body needs to be cleared of illness. And I had been living with black mold poisoning my entire life since age 3, which I think triggered my onset of my alcoholism so early. You know, is there mold in your system? Because if there is, the medicine work might be very helpful to heal the trauma, which has compromised your immune system to make you more susceptible to the mold to begin with. But if you are going to go do medicine work like ibogaine, which can clear the mold poisoning in one session, if your house is moldy and you go home, you're going to be feeling awful in 3 weeks. And then there's no reason to talk about your mental health because it's not your mental health. You have your mold poisoned. I'm just giving an example. So we need to lay everything out on the table. And then the biggest thing I have to do with people is to help deprogram of these limiting beliefs we've been sold in Western medicine, because you can recover, you can be medication free if you want to, you can heal, you can overcome. And it's about this is taking back my personal power, my agency, and I'm the CEO of my own health. And at the beginning, that can feel very scary. So you need somebody to talk this out with. You know, if you go to your psychiatrist and you come down off your medication without guidance and you have withdrawals, they're like, see, there's your symptoms, you're sick. It's like, no, that's not the
Right.
truth. So I'm about sharing truth and supporting people back to their own truth, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I basically will do whatever it takes to help a person do that as long as they're willing to do it alongside me.
What's the typical time frame that you always ask for them to invest with you?
It depends, right? So I have to also, a big part of my work is meeting people where they're at. What are you able to invest time wise, number one, energy wise, you know, financially. But generally, like pre-sobriety, people, active addiction, relapse cycles, a container like that generally takes a year. I won't even look at it for under 6 months because I'm honest, and this is what it's going to take. Medication tapering can be anywhere from 3 to 6 months to a year, depending on how long, how many are you in a toxic living environment with all kinds of things have to be considered. But generally, the highest success rates I see with my clients is when they stay with me for a year. And it starts out more intensive at the beginning and then it kind of tapers off at the end. Because my goal is by the time an individual or their family are done working with me, that you have all of the tools, you are resourced, you are educated, because that's the power. You know where you need to go and where to do and how to read your symptoms. We become body literate. And then when you're in that way, then my goal is you don't have to come back to see me unless you want to, because I've given you everything you need. This isn't a repeat wash and rinse cycle with me. So we need time to do that, but then it's for like the rest of your life. Because we'll always have the genetic tendencies towards these things. It's working with our genetics so that we optimize our liabilities into assets. That's really the key, I think, when it's all said and done.
Well, it sounds like you're doing an education process with each canon of what you're trying to help a person. So whether it's nutrition, whether or not it's supplement application for what they're dealing with, to the energetic side. I mean, you kind of do it all. And then do they order tests through you? Can you get functional medicine testing for them? Or is that something that you set them up with someone else?
I can order for people except for I think Arizona and New York. And so if they need or want that, or for convenience purposes, not having to go into the doctor's office, that's available. If somebody has a naturopath or functional medicine doctor that they love and go and see, then I respect that relationship and just have them forward the test results from their doctor. Either way.
I think that's honestly, hearing what you're doing is really beneficial, because functional medicine testing is expensive in itself, but then it's also the reading and the application once you get it back. Like I can't
Mhm.
tell you how many people will have functional medicine testing and they're like, well, I've never really done anything with it. My doctor has it. And I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, you've got like this and this and this. So you're actually boots on the ground trying to make an application like, hey, these are some of the things that we need to address in order to help you have the optimum results. I don't
Yeah.
know too many coaches that are trained in that capacity to literally take a person from functional medicine to say, these are some of the things that I recommend for you. But you also, I love that you are very realistic in your place of saying, I know what I need to do in order to give you success for tapering, for addiction treatment. If you want preparatory work to be able to integrate and take on doing plant medicine. Now you facilitate that up in Oregon because that's legal up there. Is that what plant medicines do you work with? Is psilocybin up there?
Psilocybin in Oregon, but then I've also been working as an holistic integration therapist and teaching other integration coaches to be holistic for almost a decade. And so I'm experienced with all the medicines, ketamine, but the medicine that I know really well is iboga and ibogaine, and then psilocybin. And then I'm licensed to provide psilocybin in Oregon. And I do prefer the psilocybin for people coming to medicine for many reasons. It's safe, it's a shorter journey. Ibogaine is great too, but it's definitely not for everybody. Psilocybin is much more affordable. Psilocybin does not have medication contraindications. There's no risk of addiction or habit forming with psilocybin, whereas ketamine there is. So even with my clients with plant medicines and psychedelics that are interested in that, I can prepare and integrate if they choose to go to another provider, or a lot of people went and weren't informed the importance of integration, which is 80%. It is the most important part. You will not get lasting results without integration guidance and therapy. I also help people that have kind of slipped after a big investment like ibogaine that weren't given the tools they needed. Microdosing is also really helpful. I guide people through those processes. That's very safe and effective for most people. Can be very helpful with tapering. But for now, like psilocybin's just got so many advantages. So then I do keep myself available to offer that as a service to be able to work with me directly too. But I will always assess, and this is where the functional medicine comes in. Part of me doing all of this assessment and really working closely with people is to help them find which medicine is going to be right for them and which dose, because not all medicines are the same. They're not just all good for anxiety, depression, and addiction. Or again, like if I'm going to ketamine for my trauma, but I'm actually debilitated because I have, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, the ketamine can help with the energetic and the traumatic, because there's this association with autoimmunity and childhood trauma, but the ketamine isn't going to heal the Hashimoto's. That's something that we have to work on conjunctively, right? So I work very functionally with my psychedelic work too.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. Just because that is exactly what I keep telling. I repetitively am saying to someone, you can't therapize away mold. You can't therapize away Hashimoto's. We need to learn how to treat and heal our own bodies and see that those are trigger factors and contributing factors to what our mental health and our addictions going on. So whether it's mental health, addiction, and like I was sharing this with you because we were talking about this psychedelic space that's vastly expanded. And in many ways, it's so great. It's shed light to it, right? We're like, oh my gosh, this is great. Well, now we see a ketamine clinic everywhere. And now we're seeing the onset of addiction happening to ketamine and abuse of it. And Special K down in California, everyone's using, and we're realizing, oh, this does have an amazing, beautiful application, but not for everyone. And other plant medicines have less um, tendencies for abuse, put it that way. I don't know too many people that are repetitively like abusing a mushroom. I'm sure there are, but not nearly as much as ketamine right now. We have an epidemic. So seeing that you're versed in all of it, you're capable of doing all the different ones. when someone goes up, how much time do they usually spend when they go up to Oregon with you? I mean, obviously people come from all over.
Yeah, so I work, so the framework up here is it's during the day at the service center. And this is there's a lot of, the reason I'm choosing to work within this framework is it really makes it really safe for the clients and also the practitioners. There's a lot of accountability and transparency. And so one of the pieces of the framework is that the sessions happen during the daytime at a service center. So somebody could come out for one session, which would be around, depending on the dose. And again, this is all prescriptive based on many things, but it could be anywhere from 3 to 9 hours at the service center. And that could be it. Now, I won't work with anybody that's not willing to do robust preparation and integration afterwards, because otherwise these medicines can actually cause more harm than good. They're very neutral, just like money, but very powerful. And so there's neuroplasticity afterwards, and we're renegotiating our the way our brain remembers events in our life. And there's this immense opportunity to reprogram after these sessions. It's called a critical window. And it's very short, but the thing people don't realize is that neuroplasticity in and of itself means nothing. It's how we use it. So most people go out, be like, oh, I'll see if I feel better or not. And if we don't actively take this as like one of the most important periods of our life, because it is, we can go back and double down on reinforcing the negative belief patterns or abusive cycles with partners, or poor self-care and eating habits, or if we go back to using substances, that can reinforce that. So I would require at least a month preparation and a month or two of integration post treatment. I also offer extended private retreats right now that would be like, 7 days long, where we do 2 or 3 sessions and we're integrating in real time together. We're doing the nutrition, we're doing the daily routine and the lifestyle, because I feel that that's the most important part of integration. And that always gets overlooked, is just our circadian rhythm, our gut health, our blood sugar balance, because if we can keep the system regulated, the neuroplasticity will stay open. And then we have the energy, again, the body budget, to renegotiate the trauma, because the healing of the trauma, even with psychedelics, is a long game process. It doesn't happen in the session. That's a big misnomer that people don't understand right now. And unfortunately, a lot of providers and retreat centers are marketing that it works this way, but it doesn't. We have the neuroscience to prove it. And I've got 10 years of experience to tell you that it doesn't work that way. It's a catalyst, it's an interrupter, and things can feel much better immediately afterwards. But then we feel good, so then we go get to our work, right?
So what does it mean? I mean, everyone, especially when they're doing, well, first off, I need people to understand when responsible ketamine places or therapists talk about integration, but places that are just simply giving people shots of ketamine and sending them home, it's not the same. So when someone is doing something like that, what's preparatory work and what is integration? Because for the layman not understanding that, they've gone, we hear nowadays, I'm speaking for myself, I've gone through ketamine treatment and I did 6 sessions and it helped, but then, I don't know, I really didn't. I'm back to the way I was feeling before. Okay. Or,
Yeah.
I had to keep going back, or, I wish I could just take it all the time. Okay. So you hear these kind of scenarios. And I do think that this piece and this comprehensive view of mental health and addiction is what's missing to get the results. So what does it mean to prep? And what does it mean to integrate? So when someone
Yeah.
works with you, opposed to a ketamine clinic where they go in and get a shot, and you're talking about, I make you prepare for a month, what does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I will say that that's highly unethical, the way the most of the ketamine operations are running.
I
And I
agree.
don't know that it's always on purpose. It's because anesthesiologists have to be the one, I think, to give the medicine, and they are not trained for any of this. So basically, what preparation means when we speak of therapeutic application of psychedelics is that we are preparing mentally, physically, spiritually, and in the three-dimensional of our life, so that we are going in to treat this as a sacred, potentially life-transforming experience that it needs to be. This is the antithesis of Western psychiatric medication. We are not taking this to get rid of something. So the biggest part of, I could go on for a whole hour just on preparation or longer, but so essentially, the biggest thing we look at with coming to preparation for psychedelics is to move away from expectation and into intention. And this makes it really hard when a lot of this is getting marketed as this will cure your anxiety, because it doesn't. It can't. It's not capable of curing anything. You can't cure the root causes of this. You have to heal them. So big examples like expectation would be like, I'm going to go do 6 ketamine sessions to get rid of my anxiety. I hope this works. That's an expectation. You do not want to bring that into psychedelic space because you will be terribly let down. And a lot of people are coming to this for last resort. And when that doesn't work after a while, then you feel hopeless, not because it didn't work, but you
Right.
don't understand it. So intention is, I'm coming to this medicine to please show me what I need to know about my anxiety so that I can heal it. Please show me what I need to know. Teach me what I need to see. Help me have the strength to get through the journey, and show me what I need to do after the sessions are over so that I can effectively remove the anxiety from my life. That's a prayer. That's an intention. I'm coming this to heal, right?
Right.
There's no quick fixes. Preparing my life, it would be, do I have a conducive place to have high neuroplasticity when I come home? Is my home peaceful? Are my relationships good? Can I get all my bills paid? Is there anything nagging? Do I need to clean my house? If I'm trying to quit drinking, is the alcohol out of my house? Whatever it might be, having a to-do list of all the things I can get so my slate is as clean as possible when I come home, so that I have a blank canvas to start my life with again.
I
Am
love
I, physically, how are my nutrient levels? Have I been balancing my blood sugar so that the medicine doesn't have to fight through my hypoglycemia in order to get to the emotional root of my anxiety?
that makes so
Um,
much sense. I know how many people that have said they haven't gotten a lot from doing a plant medicine ceremony. I've had people call and say, I don't know that it really noticed anything, but I do think that that's probably a large factor that's going on, is that they're not balanced, so that the medicine isn't able to do what it needs to do. So once they go through that, and they go through um, choosing to do something with you or someone else, and they come back, what is integration then?
so integration is in 3 parts. The first part is just allowing. Making and allowing the space to make sense of everything. So a big misunderstanding people have with plant medicine or psychedelics is everything they get shown is a vision, and that couldn't be further from the truth. It's not all a download. It's also, and then different medicines work in different ways. Like iboga is going to purge the subconscious differently than ketamine does. But some of the stuff coming up are trauma loops leaving. I better be able to have somebody help me discern between a real soul download and a trauma loop getting purged, so that I don't accidentally think a trauma purge is thinking I need to hold on to and act from that place, because I can go home and continue to destroy my life. I maybe it shows that I need to exit corporate. Well, what does that actually mean? Because I could take my workaholism into becoming a healer too. So what does this mean to exit corporate? How urgent is it? What's my exit plan? How is that going to affect other people? Do I need to go back to school? Can I reallocate my skills? So you don't want to go home and just quit your job, right? Or divorce your husband, even though the medicine might have showed you clearly this is a must do. Making sense of all of it. And then integration is interchangeable with the term education and application. So I'm learning about myself, I'm learning about life, because these are consciousness expanding medications. They're not medical treatments for depression and anxiety. We need to get up here. It's going to show us what we need to do. We need to work with somebody who's skilled to learn the art of integration. We won't always need somebody, but we need one for a while, or if we're going through a really challenging thing. Integration could be me noticing that all of a sudden my cravings for sugar and caffeine are gone, but I ignore them because I came in here to get rid of my anxiety. Well, the medicine's showing me through my lack of craving for alcohol, sugar, and caffeine that might have been a root cause. So I need to honor that, not pick up sugar and caffeine, because if I do, my anxiety is going to come back. I say the medicine's not working, but it's actually I wasn't trained to listen and decipher what the medicine's teaching me about my anxiety, right? So those are just some examples of integration work.
Wow. I that's that I like how you explained that. I think I like the the clear, concise what it is, because so many people, we hear integration, people talk about integration all the time, but what does that mean? And what does it mean to prepare? And I do think, thank goodness that ketamine has broken the barrier in the sense that there's a greater acknowledgement that a psychedelic, it's actually not a psychedelic, but something in that category could help people profoundly. And so it's opened up the ears of individuals that weren't normally ever thinking of doing of such, because the stigmatism that was around psychedelics as a whole, people thought of the 60s and, all the drugged out hippies, and we heard about them and they jumped off a roof when they did that, and they don't understand that the plant medicine world is about integration and knowledge and learning. Now, with that, there are responsible practitioners and not. So that's part of the goal is please vet who you're looking for. Just because someone offers plant medicine and it sounds like a great idea because it seems like it would be a quick fix, and you get on a plane and run over to Costa Rica and decide you're going to be a part of, whatever's going on. That's the one thing that I would admonish people is that when you're looking at for a very specific application, it's not like, hey, I'm going on a trip and I want to go have fun. I'm going to do this with my girlfriends. This is it. These are serious subjects that we're talking about. We're not talking about things that aren't serious. These are life-changing. We usually, when people come, they're suicidal, anxious, they're depressed, they have addiction issues. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's life changes that have been traumatic in their life. But until you start getting a whole comprehensive person like you, I think that then that's when we get people who say, well, I tried it and it didn't work for me. But they really didn't do the whole thing. It's kind of like you saying, I went on a diet, I went on Slim Fast and it didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not going to work for you. You didn't do any life changes. I mean, what are you going to do? You're not going to drink Slim Fast the rest of your life. So what are you going to do? Are you going to exercise, work? What are you doing in order to maintain? And that application, I think, to mental health and addiction has always been greatly, with the exception of the diligence to 12-step meetings, obviously, and sponsorship and that sort of thing. We've never brought the application of nutrition or supplementation or detoxing the body from, mold or things that could be. Until we bring that into the arena, we're really not taking a full comprehensive view as to what's causing the problem. But there's many, many sobriety coaches, and there are many, many people. I don't know of many people that are trained as to your level, and your application is so comprehensive. I mean, if you need medication tapering, Jen Bruce can help you. If you need life trauma and you're just wanting to figure out things and do something, this is something that you can help. Even it doesn't mean it's like drugs or alcohol. It really can just be life trauma that's happening to people that they're trying to sort out how to get past it in their life in a holistic way. They're trying to, I don't want to go in and get on meds. I don't want to drink. I don't want to. So what am I going to do to try to balance myself naturally and figure out what I need to do? And it's beautiful when you tell your story as to how much education that you've gone through and how much you continue. Because when you talk about it, the science behind each psychedelic. So when someone comes to you, you're actually able to kind of help maybe guide some of these choices. Do you help them guide as to what psychedelic that you'd recommend if this is something they'd like to do?
Yes, and I tell the reasons why, for instance, I don't recommend MDMA therapy for people in recovery from alcoholism unless they've been through severe trauma like sex trafficking or active duty or something like that, where you need a gentle journey. Because getting back to functional medicine, we know if you have a tendency toward alcohol, you're going to have SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms on your methylation cycle. highly linked to alcoholism and all of the depression and all of the misery that most of us have in sobriety. And one of those, a few of those, like the COMT gene and a few others, are really related to having a challenge with the serotonin, and I don't buy into the whole, like, chemical imbalance model, but for those of us who have been depleted in serotonin and then did a, amino acid therapy and take some 5-HTP, and that you come back online, wow, or ibogaine
Right.
can do this or whatever. So like, I know with MDMA, if people really are struggling with chronic depression, although they might have an effective journey with MDMA, the recovery time is going to block them from integrating because the depression is going to follow, because their body simply can't respond to that big of a disruption in their serotonin system based on the genetic issues that are associated with the methylation cycle that also led to their addiction. So that will create more likelihood of deeper depression after the journey, or even relapsing back into substance use disorder because of the science of how these drugs work, right? There might be somebody else that has really big contraindications to ibogaine. So, you're not blocked, like, okay, that's just spirit guiding you. Like, which one is your best one? Also, what money do you have? Are you willing to travel? Are you not willing to travel? Um, are you good at vetting your provider? Because it's a real big problem. That's the set and setting. It's who I'm with, who's providing, where I'm going. A lot of the worst providers are the most charming and promising ones that you will meet. And
I think when there's really, really, really powerful people that are meant to do big things, there's also a lot of bad things that don't want the message to get out there. So we've had more technical difficulties trying to film this. But I always say I'm onto something, really, because when I meet, I get excited about most every person I put on the podcast or interview. But there's a few that stand out where it's someone that not a few, most everyone, but I've never met someone that can handle so many different aspects: mental health to um, trauma to addiction to just anything. I mean, honestly, it's like a holistic approach for mental health. You're able to handle it. So it's like it doesn't matter if it's a trauma of a relationship that someone's going through and they want to clear and get themselves in a better place and heal. It doesn't mean someone has to have addiction issues or even psychiatric medicine. None of that has to even be the play at point. It could be just life and trying to get on track holistically and heal. And you really are like this guiding angel on earth for people. I mean, you really are. I mean, you're like this
oh,
guiding angel that's here to help people individualize and learn in a very gentle, you're so calm, in a very gentle way. You're like teaching people
mhm, yeah.
because you taught yourself, and then you're bringing it back to people. So whether it's an application of psychedelics or nutrition or um, what's going on with your body that's maybe contributing to it, you're kind of like it all. So
Mhm.
um, I always have the links below for anyone that comes in to this podcast, but you might be waitlisted pretty soon. It's like there's so many people out there that are looking for all of those things where, we have people that do energy healing. We have people that do psychedelics. I have people, nutrition, amino acids, functional medicine. You do it all.
I do.
You do it all.
And
You've done it.
not all of it's for everybody. It's about finding what the right thing for the person is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's beautiful is that when someone calls you, like you're able to kind of assess what is a good path for them. And I don't think any one of us, we're all just looking for guides to help us. But
Yeah, it's the real curriculum, right?
it really is. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is. It's like, how do we get better ourselves? So, well, thank you. I appreciate you in so many ways. I mean, as knowing you from working on the board, but seeing you evolve into this incredible warrior of a person that's bringing all of this stuff out to people who are really, really suffering and looking for help. And I mean, there's no individual that you don't help. You know, you help the person who's struggling with a substance to mental health to trauma, and in a very gentle, guiding way. Because like you're not, that's what I'm just having, when I talk to other people, like usually people have a very definitive answer. You have to do it this way. This is the best thing. You know, this is the best plant medicine. I've said oftentimes that plant medicine, the plant medicine world, those that have been in it or have seen it, it's kind of like church. Everyone's church they think is better than the next person. My church is better than your church. My
Yeah.
religion is better than your religion. Oh, you guys do that? We would never do that.
Mm-hmm.
And to find really authentic plant medicine people that are saying, let me help you decide what's best for you, is a very different approach. It doesn't feel salesman. It doesn't feel anything other than truly authentically you trying to help people. Because you're not trying to sell this big package or do whatever. I mean, obviously people can do like a 7-day retreat with you up in Oregon, right? Where you can do multiple sessions with them at the time. And that sounds absolutely delightful and wonderful. It sounds like something I would want to do.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you. Be cautious when you go down that world of plant medicine or other things, and make sure that you're really educating yourself if it's a right fit for you. There's a lot of people that'll sell you it, but it doesn't always mean it's applicable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that I learned something new. I didn't know that MDMA is really not a good fit for someone that has alcoholism.
Unless they've been severely traumatized and need to have a really gentle reset, then we weigh out, it's a balancing thing, right? So we have to take everything into consideration when making the best decision. And then so you become seasoned on your healing journey and the CEO of your own path and your own wellness, so that you can't succumb to the things that are reality of a life that we've commoditized healing. People aren't giving full truths. They're not telling you how your body works, because then you won't have to come back to see you. So this is just a skill that you learn and develop over time. And even if you've had a bad experience, don't let that deter you from coming back. It just means that you weren't seasoned yet, and humans are going to be humans. This information applies into the traditional addiction treatment model. There's a lot of bad actors, the yoga community. There's a lot of teachers that have become corrupt after they gained a large following in yoga. It's just the human nature. So we have to arm ourselves with the facts and just educate ourselves. And then we can relax on the desperation of needing one thing to work, or going on these ridiculously strict protocols, or, we can, when we understand and we can relax into nature and our biology, then we can just let it support us on our journey, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Well, I think you said it so eloquently. I don't know that everyone says it the same way you do. I think your knowledge and clearly your passion for learning and being an activist also in this arena, like you're you're an activist in the psychedelic arena, where you've gone out and been at many, functions. You're kind of the go-to person for a lot of people when it comes to asking about these things. But you're so calm and gentle and soft. And like you said, so oftentimes, especially in the psychedelic world, it's becoming much more of a show. The more of a show that I can put on for you, the better it's going to be. And I think you've nailed it. It really isn't about anybody else. It's really about you finding and a guide that can help you. And we can learn. And like I've learned, you've learned, but it doesn't make it that we're necessarily the authorities over a person. It just means that you're guiding them to help them learn what's best for them. And I mean, you're amazing. Like you got this woman's a chef. She's been a chef. She does it all. I mean, she's been a raw vegan chef. She's done everything. And the comprehensive approach that you have, it doesn't matter what a person is wanting coached through in their life, whether it's trauma. Actually, journeys are absolutely, like you said, phenomenal for people going through traumatic experiences in their life. So I think oftentimes it could preempt people abusing substances and other things if they get the right help.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, too, like trauma is a long game. There's this idea now, and I'm really grateful that trauma has been introduced into the conversation in the nervous system because that's the reality of it. But there's this misunderstanding where we have to heal all of our trauma in order to overcome, and we don't. We make space for it, we recognize it, we name it, we map our nervous system, we build our capacity over time, and we practice like in yoga, it's Santosha contentment, like I'm content right where I'm at. And I understand that my body's sending me signals, I'm not broken. And then from that place, we can move out. From that place, we can move along, you know? And so another red flag in the plant medicine space is come to our retreat and heal all your trauma in 1 week. That's an immediate no.
Right.
Nope. False hope. That's really what none of us need any more of is false hope, especially with an increasing price tag. It's so unethical. It's so wrong. Um, I think also if we could heal all of our trauma in 1 week, it would take away the joy of the journey of self-discovery. Everything I love, everything I've learned, everything I do is because I was on this journey of healing my trauma. And then when we're done healing our personal trauma, then it becomes a generational thing and it takes 7 generations. So why are we trying to always rush life? That's the predicament. That's the real diagnosis in our society, is trying to make things happen faster than they're supposed to. And we can look to nature. Nature never rushes anywhere. Everything gets done perfect time, right? So it's this, I need to get somewhere really quick thing that's actually, I think, making everybody sick. That's the root cause, really. And
No,
that
I
can even
like that.
happen in,
That actually is really true. I think
yeah.
it doesn't matter what it is. Like we want a quick fix with everything. If I want to lose weight, I want to lose it fast. If I want the pill, I want it to work overnight. And you're right. I never really thought of it. But, I wrote recently a blog about that where I said, can we medicate um, not being able to fit in? Can we medicate a divorce? Can we medicate being teased at school? Can we medicate not liking our job? Can we medicate a bad relationship?
This is where integration comes in, whether you're taking medicine or not. This is integration applies to tapering off of medication. That's where my integration therapy, I think, really helps me do an excellent job with medication tapering because we're starting to need to integrate our emotions
Yeah.
and learning what our emotions are trying to tell us, especially as women, hysteria, medication. You have anxiety and depression while your husband's have been abusing you for 30 years. There's nothing wrong with you. Your body's protecting you and you're getting sick because you're not listening, which takes courage, and then we think we have to be out of our trauma and have no fear. No, courage requires fear to be present. We're doing something even though we're afraid, and then differentiating trauma response into fear of doing the thing we need to do. So you need integration for medication tapering. We need to, well, how do we feel our emotions like we haven't been taught to feel, So we're looking to be able to feel better, as Gabor Mate would say, not feel better, but I mean, you can come out of acute panic and distress and depression and anxiety very quickly without, what I'm trying to say is we don't learn to sit in the pain of it. We can overcome those things and still be working on healing our trauma simultaneously. We don't have to heal all the trauma in order to not have anxiety plaguing our life or depression. That's the thing that's really being sold in the psychedelic space. That's not true.
Oh, I love that. Well, you've been in this psychedelic space for such a long time. There's a lot of people that are so new to it that your knowledge about that and your wisdom is so wonderful that people, when they're hearing this, if this is something that you want to look into doing, that's really, really important information. It is. Just because what started out, like you said, as a movement of, we heard of this great guy that's over in Peru and he does ceremonies, has now turned into big business. And when there's big business involved, it isn't that they're not ethical, because there's many, many ethical people that are doing it, but vetting it properly for what your spirit feels and what's good for you. So And like you said, maybe it's something that you evolve to either. It's not something that you seek out to begin with. It could be something that goes down the road that you would like to try. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So, well, Jen, thank you so much for taking the
Yeah.
time to share your wonderful knowledge and your gifts and your talent of connecting with a higher intellect of individuals that are trying. Like, I feel like you're this brainiac of information that when someone is meeting with you, you are the medicine because you've got this knowledge that all of a sudden someone can stand on the edge of their seat and say, no, what do you mean? I got to do what? Where? What do you like? Most people just want to know, what's my first step? How do I do this? I don't know how to do it. I've done this and nothing's worked. So your success rates are so phenomenal because you are like nature. Because you're saying to people, I don't rush it. Could be 6 months, could be a year, but honestly, I think everyone needs a year. And you're right. I mean, as a society, we always think, I mean, if someone goes to rehab, 30 days is too long. 30 days is not a near enough time for anyone to tackle and get to root issues.
Yeah, and that's where even integration coaching comes in. I do it with people who are going to traditional treatment facilities because they send you home too. Everywhere does it because there's no profit margin in doing that. But that's where you have to, that's the education too. It's like, okay, this traditional treatment does 30 days of it. They're going to tell me what I need to do. Integration is applicable to any transformation. I'm going to India and doing a yoga teacher training. I need to have somebody guiding me through integrating that experience when I get home. I mean, that's what our society's lost is like mentorship, right? And so yeah, it's a long game thing, but you can also get really quick relief too. But then you want to keep it. You want to keep it. So just like you treat like a precious piece of jewelry or a sports car that you love, like you want to keep polishing that thing and take good care of it. That's really what integration is all about.
I love
Um,
that. I love that explanation for people. I like
yeah.
the explanation that it doesn't have to be necessarily. Integration is about anything that we learn and
It's
how,
about applying it to our life.
right?
And sometimes it's really big, like I need to leave my husband, and sometimes it's really small, like I need to think before I speak,
Mhm.
or I need to have more patience for my children. There's nothing too big or too small. It all makes a difference.
Thank you. I honor you as a person. I
Mm.
honor the person who has gone to such great lengths to heal themselves, but share that healing with other individuals. And I know there's this whole world of people anymore that whether it's mental health or it's addiction or it's trauma, um, everyone's going, where do I go? Where do I go? I don't know where to go. And I've done this, I've done that. I don't know where to go. I want to try this. And most things of your nature starts being unachievable for a lot of people because like we talked about is that it starts become the more popular something becomes and in style, the more the price tag goes up. And it becomes more and more unattainable for the single mom or the family that's struggling to just try to keep things going and yet they're suffering. And while it costs, it's still extremely doable. And the results are so effective that I can't help but shout on the highest rooftop that it's good. Like everything, I'm saying that your countenance of a human being and what you really are produced is very pure, and what you try to present to people and the way you do it is so soft and not salesy and not you've got to do this and it's not rigid. It's doable. And I think that's probably why you have the profound success that you have with people that you work with. Honestly, it's you.
Thank you, Lev. You too. You're doing such amazing things. But
Well,
yeah,
I just, every time I mean, doing the work that I've done for 8 years, I've talked to thousands of people. That's part of why I do this. Not why I'm trained as well, but I can't talk to another mom. I can't talk to another person that can't afford treatment and doesn't know where to go. So that's why I started this. because I totally believe in a holistic approach and love the places that I've been involved with. But what I found is there's a greater calling at this point for all different people and different applications. So they can do Zoom with you. They could go see you in person. Um, Someone can fly you out and you can do 100% everything. You've done everything from, like I said, celebrities to the single mom. But
Yeah.
it's who you are as a person. And that's why I have people like you that so wholeheartedly endorse. Some people will have an aspect, they'll have the nutrition, they'll have this, they'll have different things. There's very few people that have all of those tools that they've educated themselves and they're able to help people on a coaching platform. So thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah,
My
thank you.
pleasure.
And humans can heal people. She's a
That's it.
testimony of that. But beyond that, this is why. And you have to make sure that as an individual, you share, you pass this on. Revolutionary mental health will explode with activism and sharing of this network. Because if you found out about this and you think this is, you think this is something that will help someone, you have to share it. Don't hesitate, because we are not big pharma that has an ad on the TV all the time. And so what happens is there's millions of people looking for someone like you, but they don't know how to find you. So the goal of this is, how can we help people find authentic people? And again, if Jen is not for you, there's other people. But what we're trying to say is that there's really good work being done in this field. People making huge differences, and at all different price points too. And some people that have it all like you and have the heart that is doing it all.
Yeah. I mean, I even have free workshops, free resources. If you're really hard up, you can find it all online. You just know how to look. And everything in between. But yeah, it's got to be a grassroots movement. I know we're all censored online. I know I'm
Yeah,
half shadow banned on Instagram. It just is how it is. So we gotta lift each other up.
we
And
do.
it's
And it's really
this is a human rights
it is.
issue of access to spiritual freedom
Yeah,
and mental freedom and physical freedom. It's a human rights issue.
you're beautiful, Jen. All right, you got to get to Sedona and come visit
Mwah.
me. We're
I'll
gonna
be
do a
down.
retreat here with you at some point. We've got to get you here and do a retreat in Sedona.
Yeah, that'd
Rocks.
be great.
Beautiful. All
I love
right,
that.
people. So Jen's information's down below.
Mhm.
Humans can heal.
Yeah,
She has,
there's a link if anybody's interested to just speak with me for a 45-minute free strategy session with me. And please, I encourage you to use that.
that is a tremendous gift.
No,
Also,
no selling. If you just want to talk, it's there. I have 45 minutes for you.
wow. Well, I don't know,
Mhm.
Jen. You might limit out on that pretty soon, but that is a testimony as to who you are and who you're about. I mean, that's what you're about. You're about the community and trying to grow and expand this and helping people understand. So I love that about you. Thank you so much for taking the time and doing this. I know that you're going to reach thousands and thousands of people. You already have, and I know that her inspiration. Jen also has had her touch and inspired other treatment centers where they do her protocols, because she is so highly effective at what she does. She's helped design things. So reach out to her. She can help you in numerous ways. So the links are down below, and make sure that you like, share, and get this out to people, because like I said, censorship is real on social media. And oftentimes when we bring up certain subjects, it'll get censored and people won't get the information that they're looking for. So we want to make sure that people like Jen get out there. Thank you, Jen. I'm Debbie Nelson. I'm here to change the world, and I have not alone. I'm with people like you. So thank you, Jen. I appreciate you taking the time.
Pleasure. Thank you.